This is the Happy Families podcast with Dr Justin Coulson. We're Luke and Susie, a husband and wife radio team with 3 young boys. This is the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants some answers now.
And Suze, we had kids a little bit later on in life, not by choice, but by circumstance. But it was quite fascinating for us when we got our oldest to prep for the very first time. Because as we hung out with other parents, what we saw was a huge difference and a change of what age parents were. We were in a group where almost everybody in this group was first time at prep.
Yeah.
The oldest was 50 and the youngest was early 20s for their first kid, and everything in between. And it just kind of showed us that maybe the demographic structure of our world has changed so dramatically. It's no longer just young mums. There's a heck of a lot more older mums joining the school run than ever before.
But science does what science does, right? And comes out and tries to say that one group of mums is better than another, and it's all based on age. Dr Justin Coulson, going all controversial from happyfamilies.com.au. Are older mums better?
Oh, that's just such an unfair question.
I know, right?
Asked by an older mum.
Right. Nothing in it at all.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where you can never really say the right thing without upsetting somebody. And that's not, I don't think any of us intend for that to happen. I think what's really interesting here is for us to have a conversation about what the data is telling us. Because we all know, and I'll preface my comments by saying we all know some mums who have had their children very, very young who are extraordinary mums.
Yeah.
And some who have had their children who are quite more mature, and they have been exemplary mums, and mums in between who have been amazing. And we also know mums at the other end of the spectrum, in terms of the way they've parented, regardless of what age they were when they had their children. With all of that as a preface or as a backdrop, or
that's a disclaimer.
The disclaimer. That's it. Research tells us, and in fact, a brand new study just published, that children of older mothers have fewer behavioural, social and emotional difficulties. There is some suggestion in this research that older mums may actually be better mums for a handful of really quite curious reasons.
Such as?
Susie's just sitting there rubbing her hands and saying, yes, tell me why I am so good.
Yeah. See, in my mind, I immediately go to the fact, is it that we were raised generationally different? So for me, I think there's nearly 20 years between me and my youngest friend with a child the same age as my children. So generationally, we're quite different how we were raised. I wasn't raised in an age of technology. I wasn't raised in an age where it mattered to try and keep up with everybody.
No.
Life experience?
Life experience has a lot to do with it. Now, I'll share these things, but before I talk about why it's good to be older, let me talk about why it's good to be younger.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, maternal health and baby health. In your early 20s through to your mid to late 20s, physiologically, that's the best time for you to be having children.
Yeah.
And it's the best for the children as well from a physiological point of view. We also know that there are fewer health risks during pregnancy with younger mums. And I might just also throw in there that my wife and I have had children across 3 decades.
Wow.
Okay, we've had them in the 90s, the noughties, and now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. So I think my eldest was born when Kylie was 21. 21.
Yeah.
That's right, and I was 24. And she's, nearly we're in the ballpark of turning 18 at the time of recording, or thereabouts, somewhere close to that. So, why does being an older mum help? There's a handful of reasons. It seems that older mums are more likely to have more stable relationships, which is an important consideration. The cohabiting phase has usually come and gone, and research shows really clearly, and this is again one of those it's not controversial in the data, but it's not a politically correct thing to say. The data shows that there's this thing that they call the cohabitation effect, and what that shows is that people who are in relationships where cohabitation is the way the relationship works, tend to have lower levels of relationship satisfaction, marital satisfaction, should they get married down the track, and also commitment to the relationship, which means that the kids aren't as stable as well. So having a stable married relationship is better for mum, it's better for dad, and it's better for the kids. Yeah. And we've got data from across Europe, the United States and Australia that supports that. So we know that older mums are more stable in their relationships. They've also got what you might call more psychological maturity, which is really important when you're looking after children. You can be more grounded, more centered, more patient, more compassionate if you're more psychologically mature. And unfortunately, if you look at the other extreme from an age point of view and you look at teenage mums, they and their children are the ones who are most at risk. And a big reason for that is because of the psychological immaturity. You know, they just flip out and say, I can't stand it anymore and I wish I'd never had you and all those kinds of things, which are just so devastating.
Yeah.
Now again, I've known a couple of mums who were teenagers when they became mums and they've been exemplary mums. But we're talking about averages, which is what psychological studies do. And there's this other great thing called psychological flexibility. And as we get older, we become, well, not all of us, but many of us, if we develop nicely, we become more psychologically flexible. Again, if you're a parent, being flexible kind of matters, right?
Yeah. Hugely,
you can't be too rigid.
Yeah.
So it seems that when parents have those attributes, they do better and then their kids do better.
Yeah,
so
okay.
the beauty of this, when I look at it, is go, like, all of those things actually, there's an element of control you can have over if you want to grow and become more mature as a younger parent. Like you can start to work on that consciously.
Age doesn't have to be the determining factor, but those things are correlated. You do become more mature as you get older.
Yeah.
You know,
Generally.
You can do something about it when you're 14 or when you're 24 or when you're 34, but we need to work on our maturity, no matter how old we are.
Yes.
I still sometimes need to do that myself.
Don't we all? It is the Happy Families podcast, and we are talking about older mums today. A bit of a controversial topic. Talking a little bit more about this shortly.
Are you endlessly nagging, shouting, pleading, threatening and demanding that your children behave? Do you live in a dictatorship where the kids are in charge? Time Out is Not Your Only Option is an ebook with discipline strategies and ideas that work. And they work without you carrying a load of parental guilt around all day. No more yelling, threatening, bribing or timeouts. From day one, you'll notice the difference in your children and they'll notice the difference in you. Time Out is Not Your Only Option by Dr Justin Coulson. Available as an ebook and an audiobook at happyfamilies.com.au.
It is the Happy Families podcast with Dr Justin Coulson. Luke and Susie with you here as well today as we talk about older mums and younger mums.
Okay, so you have kids when you're younger, physically it's better off. You have kids when you're older, psychologically it's better off. But that seems, in a sense, almost like a dead-end story then, to go, well, wherever you are, then that's it. What do we do if like, let's just say we're a young parent who doesn't have this maturity, or we're considering this. How do we change to not be one of the statistics that is being paraphrased here?
So I'm one of the younger parents as well. Okay, I was in my the average age that parents are having kids now is about 30 or thereabouts. You know, give or take, depending on which country and all that sort of thing. But about 30. So I was 6 years and my wife was 9 years. You know, we'd already had 3 or 4 kids by the time I was 30. I think I did okay most of the time. Look, what this really comes down to is, can you be mature? Can you put somebody else's needs first? Can you be responsive even when you don't want to be? Do you have a level of self-control that allows you to think about what's in the child's best interest and respond accordingly? These are the questions that we need to ask all of ourselves, regardless of our age. And again, this is just a correlational study. They looked at how the kids were doing at the age of 7, 11 and 15, and they found that on average, the kids with older parents tended to do better. Doesn't mean that young parents can't have kids that can't do well. Doesn't mean that older parents will have kids that will do well.
Necessarily.
Just means that on average, these things seem to be correlated.
I think probably what I take from it isn't that older mums are better, but there's a lot of good stuff. If you are an older person still waiting for that first child, there's a lot of really good stuff in there for you, and it's not necessarily going to be a difficult and hard journey. In fact, it could be a great one for you and the child.
It can be. In fact, it can be regardless of your age. You know, we make such a big deal about age, and this is a really interesting study to talk about. But I'm just so I just want to be so careful that
Yeah.
no parent feels like, well, I can't be good at this, or I'm being told that I'm no good, because that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah,
We get this
exactly.
data and it says on average, here's what we're seeing. But if you want to be a great parent, you pick up a good book, you start reading it, you learn what you can. In fact, sometimes you don't even need a book. Sometimes you just get down on the floor, cuddle your kids.
Love your child, be attentive.
Give them the love that they need, and it doesn't matter whether you're a teen mum or a mum who's single and has gone down the IVF route at the age of 45 because there were no other options. It really, anybody can love their kids. Anyone can be a great mum.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting thing. We had a chat with a baby sleep expert. We've covered most of them, and there's nothing more polarising the world of parenting than discussing one side of that.
I got ready for a fight right there as soon as you said it.
Yeah.
We don't train our babies to sleep. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
The thing that this particular expert said, which really resonated with me, she goes, I know as a parent I'm going to mess up my kids in some way or another. I'm going to make mistakes. And if I would rather make the mistake of loving my kid a little bit too much and giving a few too many cuddles than make the mistake of being too harsh and strict and rigid on what a routine was. And I thought, there are some times in life where we get a choice of, if we're going to get it wrong, what side of the line do we want to be wrong on?
Yeah.
Yeah, love's a good side to be on.
Yeah.
I'll take that, and if that's what the baby sleep expert said, maybe we can be friends after all.
Dr Justin Coulson from happyfamilies.com.au. Thank you so much for your time. I know it was a very, very touchy subject, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
There's a whole host of resources to help you with any area of parenting at the website happyfamilies.com.au, including books, DVDs, and a lot of online resources and courses available to help you with anything you might need. And if you were thinking Dr Justin Coulson might be great to speak at your school or community group, jump online to justincoulson.com to find out more.